The Northeast Texas Sports Network is dedicated on delivering the most entertaining sports broadcasts in East Texas. And if you're interested in having your next sporting event streamed live, visit us online at netsn.live.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome. Week 3 of the Beast from the East. It's your boy, Mr. NETSN, Brett Swinney. Tonight, we've got Jeremy Diamond and Mr. Red Zone OT, Kyle Owens. How's it going, fellas?
Great.
Man, it's already through week 2, guys. I mean,
crazy.
Like that, fifth of the way through the season almost. I mean, that's.
And we still don't know what half these teams look like. You know, like it's we played 2 weeks of games and we still have no idea what a lot of these teams are going to end up looking like at the end of the year.
I think Brandon sent us a little GIF. Said it best. His poll was like, you know, he had the big marks and stuff. Like, it's just a big mess right now, guys. I mean, I kind of, you know, we got some teams that are won a couple of games. Like, wow, okay, maybe they're going to do something. And teams that we are scratching our head are like, man, we thought they were going to be better than this. It's just a crazy start. Jeremy, what do you think about so far through 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a, you know, we talked about it. Some of these teams show me, right? And I think some teams have done a good job so far of showing us what they can do. And, you know, it is a little tricky with non-district because sometimes you have teams that are playing up in a classification or maybe down, or, you know, and so sometimes it is hard to judge like who's what when you maybe are a 4A school playing a 5A or, you know, something like that. So I think it makes it interesting, right? It makes the poll kind of crazy. And I think I blew my poll up and for sure in one classification all the way and the other one about halfway. And so it was a lot of scratch and move up, down, and so it was interesting.
All right, so let's go look at our results from the pick'em for this last week. And
we don't have to.
We definitely need to. I was kind of looking. I was like, man, I kept looking down and down and down. I couldn't see you, KO. So we'll get to that here in just a minute. we got to give a shout out to our winners for the week. 8 was the top score of the week. We had a 6-way tie. Chad Grubbs, one of our commentators for the Brookfield Guard, up there. Gavin doesn't have a last name, just Gavin. So Gavin out there. Jonathan Bradshaw, Nick Orlowski, Randy Leroy, and Tony Riley. That name sounds familiar. I think Coach Riley was up there at the top last week. So shout out to those. I was at 7. I was right below there. Some other familiar names. Looks like CM Corey Marshall is up there. Shout out to Corey. He's at 7. Let's see, Conrad. Jeremy, you're there at 7 with me. I'm looking for Jaron and Kyle, and I think I've had to go down a couple pages. I don't know where you guys are. Let's see. Oh wait, there's Kyle at the bottom of page 3. Kyle 5. What happened,
brother?
Kyle?
It was a rough week. I'm looking back at it now. The first 4 games were misses for me. So started out 0-4 on the week, and it was it didn't get much. I mean, I guess it got better. I went 5-1 after that, right? So I guess that's good. But those first 4, yikes! It was a rough week.
I got some good news. You did beat Jaron. He only got 4, and you beat your dad.
Okay,
he got 4. So it makes you feel a little better. I'm trying to boost your confidence a little bit.
Not bottom of the poll there. I like that.
No. But man, it was. I started the week and I was like, ooh, this might be a rough week, and then it kind of leveled off there for me. We all kind of started off rough there because I know the first night we had 2 games. We had Beckville, Joaquin. I actually went with the Rams, and man, that went my way. I thought Jeremy, you had the Rams too.
Yeah, I did.
What did you think about that impressive win for Joaquin bouncing back?
I thought it was big for them. It makes me a little bit more nervous about Beckville. A little bit here going 0-2, but no, I was glad for the Rams to kind of bounce back. It made me feel a little bit better about my early season thoughts, and so yeah.
Kyle, what do you think about this impressive win by the Rams?
I am impressed with Coach Jones and the Rams to get a win like that over Beckville. I'm kind of, again, just like I led this off, we don't really know what these teams are, but you said it too, Brett. Some 0-2 teams that are surprises. Beckville is an 0-2 team that is a surprise to me, and they've won 10-plus games the last 5 seasons, and they're starting out 0-2 this year. So already kind of behind the 8 ball if they want to keep that streak alive. But this will be the theme throughout the day too. It's still non-district. These games still don't count for playoff spots, so it's not. I don't want to overreact to it, but yeah, I mean to get beat, to get shut out in week 1 and then to get doubled up on in week 2, it's not a great start for Beckville. But I had faith in them. I had faith in them this week or last week, I should say, and it didn't work out for me.
Yeah, another team at 0-2 that I went with this week and just struggled. We got to call that game, Jeremy, is Daingerfield, as Tatum took care of Daingerfield 41-30. In the game, I mean, it wasn't that close. Daingerfield, they kind of and it was really turnovers. They had a couple of interceptions, and some special teams was a trap. Like, it was just awful. Like, I think our week we claimed our week was the special teams blunder week. We had a lot of, in the 2 games we had some weird special teams plays. Of course, we had the one where the New Diana punter kicks it off the Gladewater guy's helmet, bounces back into the end zone for Gladewater touchdown.
I actually rewatched it. He kicked it off his own teammate's helmet.
Because it was the helmet. It hit a helmet.
The defender shoved his guy back, and he domed it off his own teammate into the end zone and gets recovered by Gladewater for a touchdown.
Your poor dad, you tricked your poor dad out. I felt bad for him because I went back and watched it. Like, he lost it. He's like, he went this way. And, I mean, who do you expect it to bounce off a helmet and go backwards? I mean,
you expect the punt to keep going, not to get deflected back.
Yeah,
but it was just crazy. And then the punts by Daingerfield, just some awful punts. Snaps were bad. I think it was Teeter was the punter, wasn't he?
Yeah, he got one yeeted over him by 6 yards over his head.
And he was running.
He had to chase it down, and then he tried to quick kick it, and it went about barely to the line of scrimmage. I mean, it was rough.
Yeah, and Daingerfield's struggle now. I mean, Daingerfield fans out there, y'all did go 0-4 to start the season last year, and it worked out for you. So hopefully they'll be able to right the ship. KO, what do you think?
Another 0-2 team I'm concerned about, because now listening to y'all, this I didn't know about the game, but I mean, from what I saw in Tatum week 1, and I know that Tatum was playing Winsboro. Winsboro is one of the top teams in the state, but Tatum just did not look good offensively. You know, they just didn't look like they had any rhythm offensively. So apparently they figured it out Thursday against Daingerfield because they put up a lot of points. But yeah, it's concerning if you're a Daingerfield fan to see them start 0-2. But like you said, they were 0-4 last year and they made a 4-round deep run playoff run. So you would hope that they were going to kind of pick up where they left off last season and start this season a little faster. But it seems that Daingerfield's off to a slow start again. I'm not gonna freak out too much about it because we just saw them do this last year. But it is concerning for Daingerfield to be 0-2 and the way that they're 0-2. Just not. I mean, they're competitive, sure, but just not the Daingerfield teams we're used to seeing.
Yeah, and I thought that game said a lot about Tatum. They looked much smoother. They looked like they were running the triple offense the way they wanted to. The quarterback, it's only his second game to start. He had 159 yards rushing and a touchdown. I think they had 4 different guys score. I mean, so it was just one of those games where it was like you couldn't stop one guy. And if you did, the next guy came along and got a 30-yard run. So they were dangerous, and I thought their defense played well enough. And so, I mean, it was nice for them to get a big win.
And if you're Daingerfield, it doesn't get any easier, KO. They are hosting Pleasant Grove next week. So
yeah.
that's tough.
I mean, you're staring down the barrel of another 0-4 start if you're Daingerfield. And again, if you're a fan, do you freak out over that? Because you just saw it happen last year. I mean, that would be interesting to hear from the fans that watch the team. Is this a similar scenario that it was last year, or is the team different this year where they may not bounce back from this 0-4 start? It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, definitely. You got the next game here is you got Carlyle and Overton. And let's see, was that the underdog pick of the week? Let's see if it was. I believe
Pretty
so.
close if it was.
Underdog pick of the week. The Carlyle Indians and Coach Baker. I had that one on my sheet, and I went with them. They beat Overton 17-7 there. Jaron and Jeremy Titsworth were out there at that one. I kind of got to catch some of it. Jaron was telling me that it was closer than the score indicated. So it was a really, really good battle there between two teams. And that's, to me, that I see that as more indicator where Carlisle's trending up as Overton. Overton had a lot of guys to replace, and that's what I was worried about in this game. Most of their offense graduated. Now they had some key guys back, but with Jaden Edwards, and the
Bryce Steele.
Yeah, Bryce Steele at quarterback. That was a lot of their offense last year, and so Carlyle got a lot of guys back, and with Coach Baker's system, he's got them rolling, and man, they could be making noise in that district. I know it's going to be a dogfight up top in Carlisle's district between them and, is it Frankston's in their district as well, and
Cayuga.
That district's going to be very interesting. I'm glad we're going to be able to cover some of that, but that's going to be an interesting. Jeremy, who did you have in this one? Do you have Overton or did you have Carlyle?
Yeah, I picked Overton. I looked at their week 1 big win and and saw Carlisle's kind of heartbreaking loss, and I was worried that Carlyle might take that on the chin, just because sometimes when you lose that way brutally at the end where you have a chance to score and it doesn't go your way, sometimes it can linger with you. And then I think Overton won week 1. It was either 40-0 or 40-6. Like, they stomped a mud hole in their opponent. And so I thought Overton would have it. I mean, I'm happy for Coach Baker for sure, and hats off to them. And so, yeah, I started out, I won the first matchup, and then I kind of go 0-3 here. And I got really nervous, and then thankfully I had some rebound late. So.
Okay.
This was impressive to me. I mean, I know Carlisle's trending up, and I'm happy for Coach Baker to get his first win back at Carlisle. It can't be his first win with Carlisle, but his first win back at Carlisle. It was impressive to see because Carlisle is young, and they I know they have some players back, but they're young, and Coach Baker's building that program up, and to go out and beat a team that has had a lot of success these past couple of years, that's a big win for that program. And I got to give Jaron a hard time because he's not here and he can't defend himself. But he said the score was a lot closer than it looked. It was a 10-point game. How much closer can it get? I don't know how much closer it can really get there. It seems like it's pretty close. But no, I think it's a big win for Carlisle. And I don't think Overton is is in a position to be concerned. You know, is there some things that they can fix and work on? Sure. Anytime you lose, you can look at that. But I think Overton has everything that they want still right in front of them. And then Carlyle can take this and build on this momentum. They got a tough St. Augustine team coming to town this week. I think that's a sneaky good matchup. But, yeah, I'm happy for Carlyle, happy for Coach Baker, and see if they can build on this momentum. I definitely had Overton, though. So that was my third in a row to get wrong.
Okay. Well, we'll make that a was it a quad? Was not a trifecta. It's a quadvecta, I guess, here with game 4 KO for you. The surprising score of the weekend for me, or at least one of them. If it's not there's another one that may have been 2, but this one was a surprise as far as the score. I mean, I took Garrison this game. They got off and beat a really good Waskom team last week, and Arp says not so fast. We'll take this one. 44-9, guys. 44-9. I mean, that's a statement, and I'll just give a preemptive. Like I talked about Arp getting that win in week 1, and I added them into my poll. But as Troop shot the rocket last week, Arp is probably my rocket shooter in my poll this week. As that's an impressive win right there, and they've got another one this coming week that's going to be a challenge for them. That schedule is getting tougher and tougher, which is going to prepare them in district play. But Kay, what'd you think about that score? You were there. I mean, you got to see it firsthand. Tell us about what those Tigers did on Friday night.
Thoroughly impressed. I mean, I think my jaw was on the ground for I said this on OT the other night, but I played receiver, so I'm an offensive guy. Like I love seeing points put up on the board. But the older I get and the more I realize that defense wins championships and you need a strong defense to get you there and to win those games, the more I pay attention to defense. And this ARP defense is for real. In week 1 against Harleton, they had 4 turnovers, including 2 pick sixes by the sophomore Ty Langley. Friday night, they had 4 more turnovers, 2 more pick sixes, another one by Ty Langley. So if you're counting at home, that's 8 turnovers in 2 weeks. Half of those turnovers have been returned for touchdowns with pick sixes. So they're not only getting the turnovers, but they're doing something with it on defense when they get the turnover. So this team, man, they're impressive. And Zane Bork on the offensive side, he's so calm. He's calm and commands the offense. They don't throw it a lot. They don't have to. Like they don't have to throw the ball a lot, but when they need to throw it, they can to pick up the first down. Zane Bork commanded the offense. Josh Smith has some really big runs. Cornelius Pierce had one of the pick sixes on defense. Ty Langley, again, like I said, they're just a really, really complete team. And I'll tell you, Garrison was bigger up front than Arp. Garrison had bigger boys on the line than Arp did. Arp was moving them. Arp was moving the Garrison Bulldogs out of lanes, opening up huge run lanes for Smith and Bork. It was just a really, really impressive showing from Arp. Like you said, Brett, they were unranked in my poll last week. They've shot up inside the top 10. Like I was that – and maybe it's recency bias from being there, but I was really high on Garrison, and ARP absolutely dominated Garrison. So I'm thoroughly impressed with the ARP Tigers.
Jeremy, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I were there together. I mean, we kept looking. We thought the score was wrong for a minute, right? We thought somebody put the wrong score in the app, because we were like, it's that big of a – I mean, the spread was just so big so fast that we thought it had to be something was wrong. And I was, again – not that we didn't think ARP could win it. I don't think that's the argument here. I just don't think that anybody – either direction, right? I don't think anybody that was being honest is going to say that ARP was going to win or Garrison would have won it by 35, right? Like I think either direction you'd have been shocked at that spread. And so we thought it was going to be the who has the ball last, the 3-point game, and we were completely wrong. And so hats off to ARP for just blowing the doors off. And, I'm sure those guys from Garrison are wondering what hit them, right? Like, man.
Yeah, that was tough. ARP, there was 29 people picked ARP, so it wasn't as big of a difference as Carlyle, but still another underdog pick. And it shows this week, especially with the fact that only was 8 was our best score.
I honestly, like I said it last week, I thought Garrison was going to win, and I thought Garrison was going to win by a couple of touchdowns just based off week 1, the quality of opponent that Garrison beat and how they did it, and then the opponent that ARP beat and all that. I thought Garrison had the better team. Completely wrong in that one. ARP went out there and proved, and it snowballed. Like it wasn't a blowout till that third or fourth quarter. They had back-to-back pick sixes. Art did. Like Garrison was driving. Cornelius Pierce, CP, picks one off, runs to the left side of the field, makes a man miss, cuts back across, breaks another tackle, like a 48-yard pick six. Very next drive, Garrison again throws it. Ty Langley picks it off 80 yards, pick six. So back-to-back pick sixes on the back-to-back drives. Like it was a momentum kill. It crushed the spirits of Garrison, and it was wraps after that. But I mean, it was ARP was my most impressive team this week. And I know I was there and I saw it, and that's why I have a little bias too. But I was just very impressed with ARP.
All right. Next up on the list, Pine Tree Van. I had Pine Tree here, and boy, Van, they said not so fast. We're going to take it to them. 38-21, an impressive win for Van. And guys, I don't know. Did you guys have Van? I know Kyle, you think you picked Van, didn't you? Who'd you have, Jeremy? You had Van,
as well.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So does this say more about where Van is or where Pine Tree's not to you guys? Start with you, KO. What do you think?
I mean, that's tough, right? And again, it's 2 weeks in. It's hard to – I mean, look at the opponents that Pine Tree – I mean, if you were half the teams in East Texas and your 2 losses are to Gilmer and Van, you're not going to be too upset about that, right?
Yeah, but look who they've got in front of them too. Is that's what they were preparing for,
right? And last year you beat Gilmer. If you're Pine Tree, you beat Gilmer, and then even though you, and then you had a close win over Van that next week too. So to now lose those games after a year removed, I think it says more about Van. I'm going to be positive here and say it says more about Van. I think it speaks to Coach Moffitt and what he does with that program over there. He's been over there for, I think, 15 years now. And they just figure out a way to win. Like they just play Vandal football and they just figure it out. It doesn't matter. Some years they have a great quarterback and they'll do it through the air. Other years it's a ground game and they'll run you to death. So they just figure it out and they always play tough. And it's no surprise to me to see a Van team, get a win just because of who they're coached by and how they play. So I think it says more about the Vandals.
Jeremy, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer. I think it says a lot about Van, and I think I am a little bit worried about Pine Tree. I'm not like 5 alarm, like sound the alarm, DEFCON 5 or anything, but I am a little bit worried, and I think it's more of the score, right? I think if it's a closer game, I'm probably not as worried, but to be 0-2, and again knowing what's coming for them, I think I'm a little bit more nervous than I was. I think we talked about it. I think we've all said they lost a lot of guys, and it would be interesting to see. And so I think there's probably a little bit of nervousness there. But again, sometimes when that happens, you've got to wait for those new guys to step up. And so I'm not ready to put a death knell in the season by any means, but I am a little bit more nervous than I was last week.
I think for me, I think Van's fine. They're in good shape. They've got a big game coming up this week. But I think for Pine Tree, I think that 4 seed in District 9 for Division 1 is now a lot. It's going to be intriguing, right? You've got Henderson has played pretty well starting the season. You've got Palestine that's, got a couple of losses, but they've played tough competition. You've got and you've got Pine Tree there. I mean, that's going to be I think that's going to be your 3 teams there kind of fighting. I think Lindale, Chapel Hill, and Kilgore have kind of separated themselves. I think still that's who I think is the top 3 there. But that 4th spot is going to be very interesting because we've all talked about it. If you can just get in that district, you can make a run. So I think the gap is closed even from last year. And so I think you're going to have Henderson and Palestine licking their chops and saying, "Hey, Pine Tree, man, maybe they're gettable this year." And we'll see how that unfolds. But I'm excited to see kind of where they end up falling in that district because I mean, again, they are challenging themselves. But I mean, I don't know if Gilmer and Van are tough opponents, no doubt. But you still got Kilgore, Lindale, Chapel Hill, Henderson, and Powell. It doesn't matter. It doesn't get any easier. So I mean, they're going to have to kind of make some adjustments and fix what they need to fix and get ready for that district. But I'm interested to see where that district kind of settles out. Speaking of that district, the next one on our slate, the Kilgore Bulldogs get the win over White House. in a 49-14 fashion. That game on NETSN this past week. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning into that game. We had one of our biggest audience in NETSN history on that game. I'm not surprised there. I had Kilgore. I think White House is young. They're having to replace a lot. Well, they're going to get better as the season goes. Kilgore is just ready. They're back for revenge from last year. They think they can go back and win it. We've talked about it. That they're going to be a tough opponent no matter who's in front of them. So I wasn't really surprised. I think if you're White House, you're playing a challenging schedule for a reason. You're trying to get better, and I think you just take this one and learn from it. Clean up some things and get ready for next week, because there's another Bulldog team ahead of you next week, and it may not be much easier there. Jeremy, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think you said it. I mean, I picked Kilgore. I had no doubt that Kilgore would win. I think the positive too for White House, and again, you can take from it what you will, but I think the 2 scores late is something to kind of build on, right? Like the game didn't go your way early, but you didn't fold, you didn't quit, right? It would have been easy just to take a drubbing and score no points and kind of do the woe is me thing, like, oh, we're playing them, and but I think they came back and got the scores late, and I think that helped build some confidence, right? That we can do this. We're not there yet, but it's something to build to. And again, that's why you play these games, right? I think for White House, it gives you a test to see where you are, and to put some stuff on film that coach can go back and look at and say, this is where we need to improve. Here's where we need to work to get better.
KO?
I think what surprised me was the score. Like, I thought Kilgore would win, but I didn't think it would be like that, where they just completely dominated. Like, I thought White House would put up a little more fight than that. But from what I've seen and what I've talked to people that were at the game, like, White House had a couple of opportunities. There were a couple of drop passes in the end zone that White House could have had a touchdown or two there. So I think White House had a couple of opportunities. Like you said, they're young. They had to take one on the chin. I would not have wanted to play Kilgore this week if I'm anyone. Like, coming off a loss to Carthage, like, the way Kilgore's wired, they don't take losses well, so they're going to bounce back and take it out on their next opponent. And I would have hated to play Kilgore this week. So I think White House just caught Kilgore at a bad time too. But, yeah, like you said, it doesn't get much easier when you got another set of Bulldogs to face next week in a little bit of a rivalry. So White House is going to – Coach Westerberger and them will have to take some look at things on film, see if they can shore some things up and refocus, because you got to – I mean, there's no rest for the weary. You got another tough team this week, so just try to get better and better as district approaches.
All right, Game 7. You talked about the Bulldogs in an impressive comeback, down 20-0. Chapel Hill comes back and wins 41-26 in Gilmer. I was watching this game, kind of keeping up with the score earlier, and I was like, oh, goodness, we're not playing well. The Bulldogs are about to take an L. And then I turned it on the way home from our game, because our game was the fastest game in history, I feel like, Jeremy. It was like pound, 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 run the clock. Anyway, so it was fourth quarter, and I turned it on, and Chapel Hill's up 34-26. I'm like, whoa, okay. They've had a little comeback. Then they scored one time as I was going home and made it 41-26. But I'm surprised, not that Chapel Hill won, because I did pick my Bulldogs, but I'm surprised that they were able to dominate kind of like that. And now, even after getting down 20 points, so you take away that first quarter and a half, it's a 41-6 win. That's an impressive job by Coach Reardon and the staff. I mean, the adjustments at halftime, being down 14 to Gilmer at Gilmer, to not put your head down, Kyle, you talked about it, in the 7-on-7, they're able to stay with the game and stay disciplined and stay informed. This was true to that here. Came out and just dominated the second half. And I'd say, shout out to the coaching staff. I mean, to be able to make those kind of adjustments, to get the guys in the right spots, to come back in this game and just completely dominate the last, 2.5 quarters. KO, what'd you think about this? Just the way the game went and then the outcome.
Well, when I was keeping up with it and I saw the halftime score, I was like, I rubbed my eyes. I'm like, seriously? Like, I picked Chapel Hill as well. So because I already had a rough week starting out, I was like, man, this is going to be another loss for me on this pick'ems. But then Chapel Hill did what Chapel Hill does, right? And I think, yes, big shout out to Coach Reardon and the coaching staff, because you have to keep the kids believing, right? Like, it would have been very easy for Chapel Hill to fold and say, it's Gilmer, we're in Gilmer, we're already down by 20 points. Let's just rest and get ready for next week. But they didn't. Went out there, battled their butts off in the second half to come away with the win. It says a lot about those kids, a lot about those coaches to never give up, but it's the battle-tested team that they are. Like, they've been in games like this before where they've had to battle. So very impressed with Chapel Hill for them to come back and to get a win like that in Gilmer. It's not an easy place to play over there at Jeff Traylor Stadium. So to get a win on Gilmer's turf against a very good Buckeye team, huge win for Coach Reardon and the Bulldogs, and I expected nothing less from them than the fight that we got from Chapel Hill.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, if you hadn't seen, you just looked at the final score, you'd be like, oh, okay, Chapel Hill did what, but I think it adds credence to what they did coming back, and I think, again, if I'm Gilmer, right, I'm not horribly worried. I think it's a good talking point for Coach, right, to come in and go, hey, look, we had these guys where we wanted them. We let our foot off the gas, right? We took our foot off their throat. We gave them life, and they made us pay for it. So I think this can be motivational for both, right? I think it allows Chapel Hill to say, hey, we may have lost some guys last year. We faced some adversity, but we do what we do, right? We're a family. We're a group. Let's run. And then, again, if I'm Gilmer, I'm like, hey, we had them where we wanted them, and we let them off the mat, right? We had the chance. We had a good team down. We had them knocked around, and then we let them get back up and swing back at us. And, in future games, we can't do that.
All right. Next up is game 8, Marshall Longview, and Marshall, takes the loss, but an impressive, only losing to Longview 20-7, a lot closer game than I expected. Kyle, you're shaking your head there. I don't take anything like, Longview coming out, Coach King not on the sideline this week. He's out. So that, I'm sure that was an emotional thing. The kids' minds were probably somewhere, maybe a little bit, but still for Marshall to go to Lobo Stadium and only lose by 2 scores to a really good Longview team, that says a lot to me for Marshall.
I think what's most impressive is the defense shored up, right? You gave up 42 points to Tyler High a week before, and then you only allow 20 to Longview. Like, that's impressive to me. I think that shows a lot what that Coach Hammett and that coaching staff, how they got it. They got that defense shored up in a week to face a really good Longview team. And sure, Coach King being out, having an interim head coach, dealing with all that, they brought his hat out with them at game time. Like, there was a lot of emotion surrounding that game. It's a rivalry game on top of that, like Longview and Marshall. So I'm not really surprised that it was close, because I think I said it last week on one of the shows. Like, I think this game is going to be closer than a lot of people think, just because it's a rivalry, and Marshall's not a bad football team, right? They're a good team. So impressed with Marshall's fight. But again, you find these teams that just find ways to win, and that's what Longview continues to do. Mason Washington had another touchdown. Boosie's little brother had a touchdown Friday night. So impressed with Longview, but impressed with Marshall that they hung with the Lobos like they did.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I think both teams can walk away from this, right? I thought the score would be, in some ways, would be bigger, just because I thought Longview was that much better. But I think, and again, maybe more so the fact that I thought the scores would be higher. Maybe not the spread any different, but I thought for sure Longview would score more than 20. And, didn't know where Marshall would end up score-wise, but after watching Marshall play Tyler High and, really kind of be in trouble into that last little bit, and then almost in trouble again with a Hail Mary, I thought Marshall might be in big dire straits, coming into Longview. And again, the emotions probably played a lot into that whole thing. And but again, Longview gets the win, right? They do what they do, and they move on. And so it'll be interesting to see how they use that for week 3 and what that looks like, and whether or not Coach King can come back for a third week, for week 3, or does his interim stay in there? And so I think that there's a lot hanging in the balance as far as that goes for them. But thought both teams acquitted themselves well in this one.
All right, game 9, Lufkin Nacogdoches, and this was a rivalry game that was not close. Lufkin won 42-14. A little surprising for me. I knew Lufkin was going to come back, and they're going to be angry because they just lost to Longview week before. We saw Nacogdoches week 1 and played pretty well, but they were young, and I'm sure that had played a factor in this one. but Lufkin came out and made a nice statement with a 42-14 win. Jeremy, what do you think? You saw Nac with me week 1. Are you a little surprised by the score difference there?
Yeah, I really was. And again, we didn't, you and I didn't get to see Lufkin, but I thought this game would be closer in score. And again, kind of that rivalry thing, but Lufkin kind of reminded Nacogdoches where they are in the pecking order of that rivalry a little bit here. And again, got the new coach off to a win here. And I think, again, probably hats off to Lufkin for the adjustments that they made there because, again, not that they were horrible against Longview, but to only give up 14 here on defense is pretty impressive. So I'm more so impressed with the bounce back by Lufkin and a little bit surprised that Nac didn't put up a little bit more of a fight.
I mean, I'm not surprised really in this one. I mean, Lufkin's won 20 of the last 22 games against Nacogdoches. I mean, it's a rivalry, but is it, you know what I mean? Like it's been tough for Nacogdoches. And Nac's got a freshman quarterback. And talking to our KTRE sports director, hearing him talking about the game because he was at the Lufkin Nac game, he was just saying like that freshman quarterback for Nac showed some flashes, showed some promise. There's some athleticism there. There's some really good stuff, but also made some freshman mistakes that you can't do against a good football team like Lufkin. So I think Nac's going to be fine. I don't think it's this year for Nac. I think you have a good foundational piece with your quarterback being so young that, maybe the next couple of years you can get something going there. But yeah, it's just gonna be it's gonna be some learning, some growing pains with Nac this year. I think they're gonna look really good at sometimes, then they're gonna not look so great at other times, and they're just gonna have to find that consistency. But Lufkin getting a win for Coach Absack, his first win in the Panther purple. I think it's the first of many to come for him, but I'm not surprised by this outcome.
Yeah, and I think, again, we knew he was a freshman and we wondered, but, man, after watching him week 1, like he didn't look like a freshman. Like if you hadn't told me that watching him week 1, and again, maybe that's the opponent, but he made really good plays, and I'm sure that's some of it too. But, again, he found the right guy. He found the open play. But, again, when you up the level of your competition, sometimes those windows are tighter, those gaps are smaller, and I'm sure they watched tape and saw what he did well. I just thought it was going to be closer just because he did play with a lot of poise week 1. And he looked like the senior quarterback comparatively, where the quarterback at Palestine started before. It looked like the quarterback from Nac really had more experience in that game as the second half wore on. So that was my surprise, was just, and again, that's why they play the games, right? You don't do it on paper.
All right. Game 10. This is another one that was another rivalry game that we had. And, Legacy took care of business, fellas, 48-21. And I think this one in the ARP game were the surprise for me. I picked Legacy to win, but the score was what I was surprised by. And this Legacy comes out and just donkey stomps them kind of. I mean, this is an impressive win for Legacy. I feel like that Tyler High, I thought, they played so well last week. They were right there on the grasp of beating Marshall. And I was like, okay, I'm worried about this. It was a coin flip game. I kind of just went with Legacy because I thought that was impressive that they hung with Texas High last week. I thought that's impressive. I'm going to go with Legacy. This goes back and forth because I think Tyler Hyde won the last couple. And I thought, 7 to 10 point game maybe in this kind of game. But, man, they made a statement. Jeremy, that campus is going to be on fire next week, man. Tell me about this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, you and I we were peeking at it, and I'm like, Brett, it's 34-0 at halftime. Like, I was like, it's 34-0 at halftime, right? And you're like, and I think Legacy's found something in the sophomore in Kason Gray. And then I think they've been smart too, because they have a sophomore in Vaughn Lane who they moved over to tight end in the offseason to get him some time, and they let him run a little bit at quarterback. But I mean, it was like touchdown. I mean, it just felt like, they just had all the momentum, all the stuff going their way. And really, I think, again, the score was what it was, but in truth, that game was over at halftime, right? It was, if you watch them jog off the field, the game was over at halftime, right? Like you saw two completely different sidelines. And I've seen some comments by some former players of both sides. And, I think that I saw a few that just were talking about how the players at Tyler High were frustrated with each other and were having a hard time making adjustments or weren't making the adjustments the coaches had said to make. And So I think it's going to be, you know, I think if I'm the Lions coaching staff, I'm surprised, right? I don't think they expected this coming in after they played so well against Marshall. And again, rivalry games can be weird, and especially this one. Often the team that's supposed to win doesn't, you know, and it's one of those weird ones where there's been a few games like this where it's like just somebody gets on a roll and it's just an onslaught. And so, but yeah, it's going to be fun to be a Raider this week. And what was really cool is what they do every year is with the East Texas Food Bank. They raised a ton of money. I believe it was $20-something thousand plus 20-something thousand pounds of food were donated amongst all the schools in Tyler ISD to donate. And so just a super cool thing as well. On top of all that is rallying for the community and those that are in need of some food assistance. And so I think that just adds kind of an extra thing to the week.
Yeah, the game was JD came up to me at halftime and he was like, "Dude, have you seen this Tyler score?" And I'm like, "No, what is it?" He goes, "Legacy's up 34-0." I said, "Huh?" Like, what? Like, I'm impressed with Legacy, and I said this on OT the other night with Coleman. Like, it looked like a different Legacy team. I don't know how to explain it really, but it just looked. They had more fire in their belly. They were more enthusiastic. It seemed like the hits on defense. We had a whole compilation of 5 or 6 big hits from that Legacy and Tyler High game from the Red Raiders side. So it just seemed like Legacy was on a different level Friday night than Tyler High. And I don't know if, maybe when it was 34-0, that Tyler High was just kind of like, let's just kind of get ready for next week and see what we can do here. But impressed. I did not expect that score. I'm not surprised that Legacy won. I think it was kind of a toss-up going into this game, and it proves in our pick'ems too. We had 41 picks apiece for each school, so it was a toss-up, and I think that's how it went into the game. Did not expect Legacy to blow out Tyler like that, but I think it says more about Legacy than Tyler High. Like you said, Kason Gray at quarterback was firing darts all night long. They were running in wide open spaces. Like, if you look at their touchdowns, they're just alone when they're scoring. There's nobody around them. So completely dominating performance by Tyler Legacy. Very impressive. Happy for Coach Trahan to get his first win over Tyler High in the rivalry, because like you said, Tyler High had won the past 2. So big win for the Red Raiders, and I hope that they can build on this momentum going forward. And if you're Tyler High, flush it. This game's over. Just watch the film, get better, but flush it out of your mind, forget about it, and just move forward.
All right. We got some other games that were this last week here. Just kind of going through. We of course we talked about a little bit in the intro that we were at Tatum, an impressive win for Tatum. I think they were able to bounce back, and it'll be interesting to see. I think them in that district is going to be interesting with Gladewater having a good start. We thought them and Gladewater be fighting possibly for that 4th spot, so that's going to be an interesting district. Grace losing on a last-second touchdown pass to the defending state champion. Don't think 2-time state champions, Dallas First Baptist. Their classification a couple below them, I think, but still a really good football team. State Power, they were really close and ahead. Just I think for a lot of that game they were ahead, but they didn't get to win. Frankston,
I think Grace has a freshman quarterback too, don't they? I think they've got a really young quarterback as well.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
And Frankston with another impressive win. We got just 59-0. I know Huntington had that first win in a while, but Frankston's kind of making a statement. They're a team that's made a statement here early in the season, I think. Those are some Thursday scores that kind of interest me. Did you guys have any that kind of stuck out to you that weren't in the pick'ems?
I think Henderson's win over Liberty Islos was not that they got a win, wasn't the surprise, but how bad Liberty Islos looked in these first 2 weeks. Like, I think that's been a big surprise for me. You're talking about 0-2 teams that are a shocker. That one's kind of a shock to me, but I think Henderson picking up a big win, that's good. Couple 2-0 teams, Mount Vernon getting another big win on Friday night, and their running back Dawson Witherspoon rushed for 366 yards in that game. So quite the performance for him. But Mount Vernon being 2-0 is a big deal. I think Gladewater, Coach Lewis and the Bears to get them off to a 2-0 start. I think that's very impressive. So there were a few surprise scores, I think, on this past week, but Frankston also very, like you mentioned, impressive there too. Not allowing a first down the entire game. Like, that is unheard of. I don't care who you're playing. Like, that, to not allow a first down for the entire 4 quarters is impressive. So I think we got a lot of teams that are proving themselves early on. But again, is this just a 2-week, spurt, or can they keep this up for the entire year? We'll have to see.
All right. Let's see, Jeremy, you got anything that sticks out to you that wasn't on our?
I mean, we talked about the Tatum Daingerfield. I think that was a big one. Just the way that Tatum was able to come out and kind of command the ball and control the clock and do the things they wanted to do. It felt like it was effortless is not the right word, but I think it was much easier than we expected it to be. That one just was surprising to me. Like you said, we both kind of picked Daingerfield but I mean, I think just the guys that we talked about, the guys that were new starters needed to step up. And man, watching the freight train run, like, I don't know how anybody tackles that guy. He was running guys over on accident and on purpose, and and then you got Adcock with his speed and the cutback. And I mean, like I said, he had 4 or 5 guys score and played really well on special teams. They had a punt block. I mean, it's just kind of one of those nights where it just felt like Tatum couldn't do much of anything wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the polls. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to start with the big school poll this time, Kyle. I'm not going to get you out of kilter. I'm going to start with the big school one here this week. All right, we're going to start with 15 and work our way up. You got your notes ready, KO? All right. I figured that's what you were doing. All right, so here we go. Starting at 15, we're going to go. It's going to be into the poll for the first time this year. The Pittsburgh Pirates at 15. We've got Center at 14. Tyler Legacy at 13. Marshall at 12. Van at 11. All right. Thoughts on this, fellas?
I'm surprised. I mean, I think I'm surprised at Legacy going to 13. Not that they didn't have a big win, but I'm surprised they jumped from not ranked to 13. It's a pretty big hop, and to be 1-1. But I've got several of those schools in that 10 to 15 range, so I wasn't too far off. I have Athens at 15 after going 1-1. I've got Pittsburgh at 14, Center 13, Van 12, and Lufkin 11. So that's my bottom 5. So.
All right, Kyle, what do you think about that?
I like that Pittsburgh's in there. I voted them in this week as well. I think they're off to a hot start with some wins over some 2 teams last year that were really good. A win over Liberty Islo in week 1 and then a win over DeKalb last week. So I'm really impressed with Pittsburgh and how they've gotten things started off. Completely on me. Did not put Center in my poll. That's on me. Hand up. I forgot that they were a 4A school, to be honest with you. So that's probably on me. I should have put Center in there, but Legacy at 13, I like. Marshall and Van. I got Athens at 15 still. I got Legacy went from non-ranked to 14th. I put Pittsburgh from unranked to 13th. And I got Gilmer at 12 and Marshall at 11 in my poll.
Okay.
So I like it.
I had Henderson, Athens, Marshall, Center, and Van as my 15 through. I brought Henderson back in. They beat Liberty Islo pretty handily. Now, is Liberty Islo as good as they have been? We don't know. Maybe they're not. But I think the statement that they won, it was like 52-13. I think Legacy, I don't have them in my poll. And one reason I don't know how good Tyler High is. Like, yes, it's a rivalry. It's impressive. But I just don't know how good Tyler High is now. If that win turns out to be better later, it might, is it that we got the BCS rankings? If that is a better win later, it could help them. But right now, they're right there. They're on the edge. They're a team that I'm watching now. They're like my Gladewater of last week. I was watching Gladewater this week.
I think for me, the reason I put Legacy in is, yes, they lost in week 1, but they looked good. Like, they looked really good in week 1 against a very good opponent who we know is a good opponent. Like, we don't know how good Tyler High is going to be. So I'm with you there, but I think I took into account that they did look good. Even in a loss, they looked good against a very good Texas High team.
That's fair. That's fair. I get there. It's these bottom ones. You can go a lot of different ways. I'm kind of the same way with, like, I didn't put Pittsburgh in my poll yet because I'm not sure what Pittsburgh is yet. Like, they're another one I'm keeping an eye on. I think they're another team that will, as the season goes, if they win a few more, get some impressive wins that impress me, I wouldn't mind putting them in. It's so hard at this bottom area. It's kind of like, you could have a bunch of teams in this bottom. It's kind of a big matchup of teams. All right, so let's go up to 10 through 6. So at 10, we've got Gilmer. 9 is Lindale. 8 is Sulphur Springs. 7 is Lufkin. 6 is Pleasant Grove. What do you think about that, Kyle?
I don't mind that. My 1 through 8 remain the same as last week because they all won. So at 8, 7, and 6, I still had Sulphur, Lufkin, and PG, but I did drop Gilmer from 10th last week to 12th, and I moved Lindale up from 13th to 10th. Shout out Lindale. Moved Van up from 11th to 9th, and then Sulphur, T-High, and Lufkin are the next one. So I really just, everybody that won, I just kind of kept them where they were, and my top 8 all won last week. So I like where this is headed, where these polls are headed.
All right, Jeremy.
Yeah, I had Lindale at 10. I had Marshall at 9, Gilmer at 8, Sulphur at 7, and then PG at 6. So
okay,
I had a couple I hit right. So
all right, yeah, I had Gilmer 10, Sulphur 9, PG 8, Lindale 7, and Lufkin at 6. That's where I kind of had mine. I bumped Lufkin up, and I also bumped a few others up, and I brought Sulphur from 12 to 9. They've been impressing me so far, so I've kind of moving them up the poll too. So I think that's a pretty solid group. All right, top 5. Let's see. We got at 5 Chapel Hill, 4 Texas High, 3 Kilgore, 2 Longview, 1 Carthage, and that actually stayed the exact same as last week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. All those teams won, and all of them won pretty convincingly. Longview was a 13-point game. Chapel Hill was a 15-point game, but they all pretty much won convincing. Carthage won big as well. They had the big bye week, so they won over the bye week pretty handily. But I think the top 5. I think that top 5 will stay the same probably for a while until we get that Chapel Hill Kilgore matchup down the road.
All right. That's pretty solid top 15. I think we'll see how it looks next week. See if it does. It did shuffle a little bit. This one shuffled more this week than it had previous, with some of the shakeup that we had. Yeah. All right. So let's go over here and let's get the small school poll. Is there anybody, before we go to that, guys? Is there anybody that you're watching for? I kind of mentioned a couple. Is there anybody you're watching for that's kind of on the edge there of your poll that you're kind of keeping your eye out on?
I think Legacy, I'm excited to see what this week looks like. I think it's going to be a big game for them, right? They're playing a team that we have in the poll, and so I think that's going to say a lot again about where they are. They were on the cusp for me. My team that I brought in was Pittsburgh. I didn't have them in, and I think, again, with them with 2 good wins, and again, we'll see what those look like at the end of the year. It may not be as good as we thought, but going 2-0 and doing it pretty well was important to me, and so I didn't want to leave the Pirates out. So that was my kick in. But I'm excited to see if Legacy can continue the hot streak, and what teams that lost this week can bounce back.
Yeah, I had my eye on Pittsburgh. That's the one that kind of moved in for me. I took out a couple of teams, but Pittsburgh, and I need to put center on my radar. I completely forget about the Rough Riders down there in Shelby County, so I need to put center on my radar.
Okay. All right. Some good ones there. All right, we're gonna go to the 3A2A Taps poll. Let's see, week 2. All right, here we go. Starting at the bottom, there was a lot of shuffling in this poll. I'm just gonna tell you right now, this poll is shook up like a blender or one of those little ping ball machine where you select lottery picks out of it. This was a big shakeup this week. So at 15, we've got Grapeland, 14, Grand Saline, 13, Honeygrove, 12, Mount Enterprise, and 11, Garrison. All right. Let's see what I had. I had Grapeland at 15. I brought Hawkins in. They've won a couple of games early. I brought them in at 14. I brought in Carlyle after the impressive win over Overton. They only lost to Mount Enterprise, which is above them. And I also brought in Gladewater at 12, and then Frankston at 11. So I had 3 new teams in my poll down here at the bottom. Kale, what do you think about those?
I like that, and I like the teams that you brought in too. I think those are quality teams to bring in. I did drop out two teams in my poll, but I have Grapeland at 10. I dropped them from 5th to 10th, and the reason that I still had them at that high is because they went on the road and lost to Bremond, who's ranked in the state by Dave Campbell's, and, in outside of East Texas. They're ranked in the top 10. So I didn't want to knock them too hard. Grand Saline, I dropped them to 12th in my poll, so them sitting at 14 is good with me. I don't have Honeygrove in my poll, so I can't speak on that one. Mount Enterprise, I have all the way up at 7 in my poll. I moved them up 4 spots from 11th. And then Garrison, I dropped them from 4th to 14th. I kept them in the top 15, but I dropped them to 14th just because they just got dominated by ARP, and it was hard for me to – I know I have them below a team that they beat head up, but I mean that ARP one it stuck with me, seeing it there firsthand. So I docked the Garrison pretty hard on that one.
All right, Jeremy.
I brought Joaquin back in at 15th. I have Grand Saline at 14. I had Grapeland at 13, Waskom at 12, and then Gladewater at 11. And so Gladewater for me was 14 last week. I bumped them up to 11 with another big win. And then Waskom, Grapeland, and Grand Saline were 8, 9, 10 for me last week. So I bumped them down to 12, 13, 14 and walked Joaquin back into the poll. And I took Liberty ILO all the way out after going 0-2. I had them ranked way too high considering what we've seen so far. So I bumped them out of my polls. And then I have Mount Enterprise at 10. So it wasn't too far off there with that one. So
I meant to mention that too. Gladewater was one team that I moved in from unranked, and I put them up at 11. So I moved them up to 11th as well. But yeah, I forgot to mention Gladewater was in there.
All right. I think that's pretty. I mean, again, this poll, and just to give you a kind of a reference, Grapeland, who's at 15, was at 8 last week. Grand Saline was at 5 last week, and they moved to 14. Honeygrove came into the poll. They weren't ranked last week. My Enterprise stayed exactly the same at 12, and Garrison went from 5 to 11. So that's, you already see the shakeup happening right there. I mean, you can just see it. All right, top 10. Let's go 10 through 6. We got Waskom at 10, Frankston at 9, Gladewater at 8, Lovelady 7, Malakoff 6. Now, Gladewater went from unranked to 8, big jump, and Frankston jumped from 14 to 9. Lovelady jumped in the I guess from 9th to 7th. Malakoff took the loss this week, and so they dropped a couple of spots down to 6. What do you think, Jeremy, about those? What does that match up with what you have there?
Yeah, so I've got, like I said, I have Mount Enterprise at 10. I've got Lovelady at 9. I moved them up a spot. Mount Enterprise went from 11 to 10. I had Frankston last week at 12. I moved them up to 8 with a big win. I probably had them too low. Garrison went from 3 to 7 for me. And then I had Jefferson at number 1, and I dropped them to 6 with a loss. And then I moved ARP. ARP was my big runner. Right, oh, that's in my top 5. I'll wait and say that one later. Never mind. Sorry. That was my 10 through 6. So Mount Enterprise, Lovelady, Frankston, Garrison, Jefferson. So I did penalize the teams that lost. They moved anywhere from 4 to 5 spots at least, depending on how. And again, I didn't want to bury Garrison because I think they're better than that game. But I also didn't want to leave them way up there where I had them at 3 because that wouldn't have been fair either. And so I dropped them into that second tier of 5.
Yeah, I have Grapeland at 10. I dropped them from 5 to 10. Like I said, they lost to a top 10 team. I moved Frankston up from 14th to 9th. I was impressed with their win over Huntington. I moved ARP from unranked to 8. So that's what I was meaning. I put them in my top 10. I was just thoroughly impressed with ARP, man. I think I had them severely underrated at the start of the year, so I'm trying to play catch up on that. I moved Mount Enterprise from 11th to 7th, and then I moved Waskom from 10th to 6th. Now, I'm not crazy about Waskom being at 6 and being up that high above a team that they lost to by 20, but it's just the way the poll fell this week. But Malakoff's in there at 6th in the poll. I dropped Malakoff from 7th to 13th. Lorena is traditionally very good, but they were not very good last year. They were 2-8. I think they missed the playoffs. They weren't good. So I understand it was a last-second field goal that beat Malakoff, but I think that's Lorena's not ranked anywhere, right? So I think that's a bigger upset than any of the other losses in this top 15. So that's I dropped them to 13th in my poll strictly because of that loss to an unranked team. Now they can move back up, but I mean, I think personally 6th is a little too high for Malakoff with a loss there.
Okay. Top 5, guys. We got Jefferson at 5, ARP at 4, Troop at 3, and we have a tie at the top between Westwood and Winsboro for number 1 this week. Man, ARP shot up in the poll. They were the biggest riser this week. They came in, they were at 15, they jumped to 4. I mean, it's obvious why. I mean, an impressive win over a team that Garrison, that was 5 in our poll. Now ARP's up there, and to me, this makes interesting for that Troop and ARP game. I mean, man, this is going to be a battle of the Tigers, the Maroon Tigers. Man, that's going to be. I don't know to give anything away, Kyle, but it could be a game of the week down the road at some point. I mean, I don't know. I don't make that schedule, but you know,
we'll have to see. Who knows? You know, who knows what's going to be happening at that time of the year? But the 7 Mile rivalry is never a bad option.
All right. So, what do you think about that? Top 5.
Listen, I dropped. So my top 5, I dropped Jefferson from 2nd to 5th. I had Jefferson 2nd in my poll, dropped him to 5th. Newton's a top 5 team in the state. A long drive down there, lost by a possession. I still think Jefferson's one of the top 2 teams in the state. I think ARP shooting up doesn't surprise me. Again, I think they were good enough. Troop, I have Troop at number 4. I moved them from 9th to 4th. I moved Lovelady from 8th to 3rd. And because my rationale was I'm not going to put them over a team that's got 1 loss unless that 1 loss is to Carthage or something. So I just kind of moved everybody that 1 up. So I still have Westwood 1, Winsboro 2, Lovelady 3, Troop 4, and Jefferson 5. So I don't have any issues with that top spot or with the top 5 other than Winnie and Westwood being tied. I think Westwood is the better team, just personally.
All right. That's it. I think they're our top 2 in the area. I think it could be. You could tell me 1, 2 either way right now. And I think everybody would be okay with that. Any teams that you're watching for that didn't make the top 15, fellas? Anybody there kind of that maybe you're kind of looking at and saying, hey, maybe this team could make it if they win a game or 2 here in the next few weeks?
Well, I think you mentioned Hawkins, right? I mean, they're 2-0. That was a team I didn't have on my poll, and I think that's a team that has a chance. And you know, I brought Joaquin back in after a big win, and so we'll see if they can continue the momentum. And you know, again, I think it's hard sometimes when you're looking at these. You know, my top 5 was Art, Malakoff, Troop, and then I had Westwood and then Winsboro. And I think it's a coin flip between Westwood and Winsboro. I just had Winsboro ranked higher before, and so I kind of left it that way. And so, I mean, I think it's the exciting thing is how these top, 5, 6 teams are going to shake out as we move on. I know that's not bringing somebody into the poll, but it's going to be fun to see when you got your Troop and your ARP and some of those schools, up here. Are they going to be able to hang at the top, right? Are they going to continue doing that? And again, I think, I didn't see Garrison making, the score being what it was and making the slide. So that was interesting. So I think it's just fun early in the year, to see how these things shake out.
I'm keeping an eye on Mount Vernon over there with the new coach, 2-0 start. I'm keeping an eye on them, keeping an eye on Hawkins. Like you said, Elysian Fields out of that same district, they got a 2-0 start to the year. So definitely some teams that you want to keep an eye on. And I think teams that we don't show enough love to that probably won't get love just because there's so many teams. Shout out to Union Hill in the 1A ranks. They stay dominating. They continue to dominate. So I don't think they'll ever reach our top 15, but that's also a really good team that is in the East Texas area that I don't think we talk about enough.
All right. Let's see. Let's go to we got next. We're going to talk about the pick'em games for this week. Let's talk about that here just a second here. Let's see. All right, let's pick some games, fellas. And week 3 pick'ems are now here. Game 1, where Jeremy and I will be on Thursday night. The West Rusk Raiders.
There you go.
Will come to town and take on the Gladewater Bears. And I'm excited to see what West Rusk has this year. We're going to cover them a few times, but I've seen what Gladewater has, Jeremy, and they're impressive. Coach Lewis doesn't know how to lose a game, Kyle. He is undefeated in his career as a coach, and I think it continues that way. So I'm going to go with Gladewater to get the win over West Rusk. I think I know where Jeremy's leaning, so I'm going to go with you first, KO. Where are you going with this one?
I'm leaning the same way you are leaning. I love Coach Lewis over there in Gladewater, and I think he remains undefeated as the Bears head football coach. I just don't know what West Rusk has. They lost to Malakoff. They were up on Malakoff, then ended up losing that game, and then beat Diboll by 10. I don't know what that win means. So I'm going to take Gladewater and Coach Lou.
Jeremy?
So KO, you'll probably know the answer to this. Was Coach Lewis at one point on staff as an assistant at Tyler Legacy? He was, right?
Oh, at Legacy, I don't know.
I can't remember. For some reason, anyway, I might be wrong. I just thought he left maybe. I think he was there a little bit and left with Coach Levere. But I've been impressed with Gladewater. I'm impressed with the way that but again, I could be totally wrong. So don't take that as gospel because I could be wrong, and I probably should have asked earlier. But anyway, I've been impressed with Gladewater. I was impressed with the way they handled themselves. Vasquez had 2 incredible picks in that game defensively. He had one where he was literally like full stretch, laid out backwards, ball behind his head and snags it. I did one, and both of them would have been touchdowns had he not made the catch. But their defense was just outstanding. And then, and they didn't have the ball. We watched it. We were at that game. I think they had the ball about a total of a minute the first quarter. And then at halftime they might have had 5 minutes possession maybe, and they were up 14-7 at the half, and then all of a sudden the second half they just poured it on, and so I was super impressed. I'm going with the Gladewater Bears.
All right, game 2, an intriguing matchup that was mentioned earlier in the show, San Augustine and Carlyle, guys. This is going to be a good one. We've been impressed with St. Augustine so far. They've done well with the schedule that they've been given. I think this is going to be a huge game. It's going to be at home in Carlyle and Price, Texas, Arrowhead Stadium. I think that's going to be the advantage. I'm going to give the win to Carlyle just because I think what they're doing right now with Coach Baker, they're building a momentum, and it's at home. I think this could be a coin flip game, but I'm going to take the Carlyle Indians in this one. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think along the same lines. I think both of these teams are good. I think this is going to be a good game, but I'm going to go with the home team as well. I think the advantage of being at home and just what all that brings. And, again, I've been impressed with Coach Baker and his staff. If you could bottle the energy that staff has and the excitement when their kids make plays, I think it's contagious, right? And we saw that in the scrimmage. I saw that when I watched them play, even in a loss that was tough to a really good Mount Enterprise team. And then for them to bounce back and get the win this week, I'm going to go with the Indians as well.
Kale?
I like Coach Baker over there at Carlisle. I really do. I'm impressed with the San Augustine team. A shutout win over Beckville. Again, how good is Beckville this year? We really don't know. But a shutout win, anytime you could shut out an opponent, that's an accomplishment. So a shutout win over Beckville. And then I get they lost to Westwood. It was only by 14. They only lost to Westwood by 14 points.
True.
I am impressed with what San Augustine's got going. I know we've been talking about Coach Barnes having this squad on the up and up on an upward trajectory, and I think that this may be the year they get back into the playoffs and can do something. So I'm going to take San Augustine on Thursday over Carlisle.
Okay. It's a good matchup though. That's two really good ones to start.
It's a toss up. I mean, if Carlyle wins, I'm not going to be surprised, but I think this is going to be a really good game.
All right, we got a matchup here on Friday to start our Friday slate. Man, this is a really good one to me too, guys. Frankston and Grapeland, two teams in our top 15. Frankston's been so impressive so far. Grapeland, they did lose, but it was to a really good team, so it's hard to judge. But I feel like Frankston beat a really good Joaquin team. I think Joaquin's still a really good team, and they beat them week 1. So, man, I'm gonna go with Coach Gold and the Frankston Indians here, man. I feel like that they got something special going. I think this is another game to me that's a coin flip, and I'm gonna go with a team that I've seen a little bit on NETSN. I've seen what they're doing, but this game's gonna be down to the wire. It's gonna be a classic, and I can't wait to see the outcome of it. But I'm gonna go with Frankston. Kyle, what you got?
You said it. This is another toss-up. This is another tough game. I wish I could be at this one Friday. Good news is I'm sure we'll have somebody there so I can have some highlights of it. But, yeah, this is going to be a really good game. I'm impressed with Frankston this year, but I'm a big fan of Coach Wood and the Grapeland Sandies. I mean, I'm a huge fan. That's not a slide on Coach Gould and Frankston. I love them too. But I've been impressed with Grapeland these past couple of years. Frankston is on the up and up. This does seem like a year that they should get this win. It's at Grapeland, though. I'm gonna take the Sandies. I'm taking Coach Wood and the Sandies, but this is kind of like the last one we just picked. If Frankston ends up winning this game, I'm not going to be disappointed or shocked that they won. I think it could go either way, but I'm going to take the Sandies.
Jeremy?
All right, I've got Frankston in this one again. This was a tough one for me. There's a few on here. We gotta work on these picks where it's a little bit easier for me to pick so I can win some more.
The point is to make it tough, Jeremy.
No, this is a tough one. I'm gonna go with Frankston. Again, I think coming off two wins, right? There's some momentum there, and again, Grapeland lost to a really good team. I wouldn't be shocked if Grapeland wins this one. I think it's going to come down to a key play, right? There's going to be a key turnover, some kind of break that happens in this one, but I'm going to go with the visiting Frankston Indians here.
Okay. Game 4, we've got Winona and Hawkins, guys. Man, Winona was a team that got that big win in week 1 that we saw on NETSN over Big Sandy, Hawkins' rival. But these two teams aren't that far apart either. Winona and Hawkins are pretty close. So this is almost the same. It's like the three of those schools are pretty close. So Hawkins 2-0, Winona 1-1. Man, I'm gonna let you guys choose first and see where y'all go. Kyle, what are you thinking here? This is a good matchup.
This one's pretty easy for me, if I'm being honest with you guys.
Okay. All right.
I got Hawkins. Hawkins in this one. Now, Winona is better. They are improved this year. My only hesitation to you about being impressed in week 1 was look what happened to Big Sandy last week against Como-Picton. I mean, that's my only hesitation there. And last week, Winona lost to Lone Oak, but they had 9 turnovers. 9 turnovers. And they didn't get beat 70-0. Like, I think that's the impressive thing. If you turn the ball over that much and your defense is able to at least make some stops there on the back end, that's impressive. And in years past, we've seen Winona teams completely melt down. So I think that, yes, Winona is much improved. I do believe that. I don't think they're where Hawkins is right now. I think they still got a little ways to go to get there. Hawkins, we just talked about them being in the top 15. Do we consider Winona close to being in the top 15? I don't think so. So I don't think this is going to be as close, but I do think Winona is much improved from years past. So I do think it'll be a different looking team, but I still got Hawkins.
Good points, Ko. Good points. Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, Ko said some of the same things I would have said. I've got Hawkins as well. I think Winona is better than they were, but I don't think they're ready for the level that Hawkins. Again, Hawkins was a team that I probably could have had in my poll or maybe should have had in my poll, and so I've got them taking the win in this one.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leaning. I did put Hawkins in my poll this week. I've got him in at 14. I think it's going to be a closer game if Winona can keep the turnovers down. If they can keep the turnovers down, then I think this could be a really good game. But if they turn the ball over, 9 times in a game, that's crazy. I don't know that I've ever been to a game with 9 turnovers.
Now, I heard that a lot of those were center to quarterback exchange, so bad snaps. So if you just shore up the bad snaps, that probably eliminates half of those turnovers.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like it's like penalties in the past that Winona would get, right?
Yeah.
Would be unsportsmanlike conducts, personal fouls, stuff that you can control. And This is another thing that you can control. Just work on the snaps, get the snap better, and that eliminates half your problems.
So what you're telling me in practice this week, there's going to be a lot of center to quarterback snaps.
I would treat it like free throws. Get 100 before you leave practice.
100 ones that are actually 100 in a row, good ones, right?
Right.
Here you go.
And if you miss one, you start over.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm going with Hawkins too, guys. I again, I had my poll. I think that's going to be interesting. And they're in that district. That's going to be a battle. They're in there with with Beckville and Waskom, and so Beckville's. We talked about. We thought Beckville was at solid 2. I'm not sure about that anymore. That may be a Waskom and everybody else just battling it out each week. So Hawkins is one of those teams that could come in there and get one of those playoff spots. I think they're in good shape to do that. I think they get the win here. All right, game. Are we
even sure about Waskom?
Well, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
After they lost, and then you saw what ARP did to Garrison. Who knows, Kyle? Who knows? How sure are we about anything? Really.
Never sure about anything, am I?
Another one, game 5. 2 teams that have been in our poll. I believe Mineola has dropped out. But the ARP Tigers, the biggest shooter up in the poll, man, they got the momentum going, man. That defense, Kyle, you said it. When you can play defense and stop the other team and you can run the ball efficiently, it's tough to stop that. And they've been doing that really well this year. Your defense is scoring points. And when your defense scores points, that also bodes well. So I'm going to take ARP to go on the road and get the win, a huge win for them over Mineola, and go 3-0. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think this is an easy one. Not that that's any slight to Mineola. I just think the way that ARP's playing right now, you can't pick against them until they prove that you can't, right? A team that's done what they've done in 2 weeks, they've shown me a lot, and I'm impressed. And I think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with all year long. And so I've got ARP in this one.
KO?
Really, really, really happy for Coach Blackwell to get his first win back with Mineola last week over Scurry Rosser. So happy for him. I don't think it continues this week. I think the ARP Tigers are coming to town, and that defense is playing lights out. I think the key, though, will be if Mineola can play ball control, right? If they can keep their offense on the field, which is going to be tough against a really good defense, but if they can convert third downs, not turn over the football, don't give ARP free possessions or free points, I think you're going to have to play not a perfect game, but a near perfect game to beat ARP if you're Mineola. And if you're the Tigers, you got an opportunity here to keep proving people wrong, to keep proving that you deserve all the accolades and all the hype that you're getting right now. It's another opportunity. If ARP goes out and wins, about 3 scores or something like that, then I think that's also eye-opening. Like, okay, this ARP team is for real. So I think it'll be a good game, but yeah, I'm taking the ARP Tigers in this one.
All right. Game 6, Tyler Legacy and Marshall. Man. And my feelings on this game are different than they probably would have been a couple of weeks ago. We just saw Marshall beat Tyler High in a close battle back and forth. And then we just saw Tyler Legacy beat Don Tyler. So my common sense knowledge, which who knows if common sense is going to be common sense, says that Tyler Legacy should also beat Marshall. And so I'm going with the Tyler Legacy Red Raiders. Jeremy, as my math logic work there? Does that math for you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Tyler Legacy Red Raiders as well. I think they showed us against a really good Texas High team. They can hang in there. and then they blew the doors off of what we thought was a pretty good Lions team based on week one. And again, I don't know if that week one says more about Marshall, or maybe the rivalry-ish thing that there is between Marshall and Tyler High. They've had some good games and good battles, but I'm going to go with Legacy here. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Legacy they're going to rally off the positives that they took from this week 2 win and go with it.
Little inside baseball here. This was nearly the game of the week for Red Zone this week. It was highly intriguing. I think this is going to be a great matchup. I think these teams are very evenly matched, more so this year than they have been in years past. I think they're starting to get a little closer together. I'm impressed with Legacy. Like I said, I'm impressed with what they did just as a whole. They look like a completely different team this year. I think that they're off to a good start. I know they're 1-1 with a loss there, but I think they're still off to a good start, and they have a ton of momentum coming out of that Tyler High game. I think they continue to build on that momentum, and I'm going to pick Legacy to beat Marshall, but I think it's going to be really close. I think Marshall has a lot that they can hang their hat on too, hanging tough with Longview like they did on the road at Lobo Stadium. I think there's a lot of positives Coach Hammett can take from that, but I like what Legacy's doing right now. I like the look, as McAfee would say. I like the cut of their jib in this one, so I'm going to take the Tyler Legacy Red Raiders.
Okay, and this is a game that I talked about. I was going to be watching them. This is a game that if they can beat Marshall, then they'll be getting a vote in my poll next week. So we'll see how that turns out. All right, game 7, another little rivalry game. The Athens Hornets and the Palestine Wildcats. A little kind of I don't know if it's cross town, but they're pretty close right there within a good little distance apart. But the big rivalry between these two, man, I think Palestine's improving. I think they're on the right track, but even though Athens kind of lost a close one to Kaufman this week, which was a kind of a surprise to me. I don't know much about how good Kaufman's supposed to be, but I just thought Athens would beat them. A 1-point loss. I think the Hornets are angry, and they're gonna sting the Wildcats this week. And I think that's a NETSN game that we will have on Friday night. I'm not sure who's going to be at that one, but we are going to have that game on NETSN. And I think Athens gets the win. Coach Harrell and his guys get that retaliatory win after last week's loss. Keo, what do you think?
I don't know if this one's really going to be close, fellas. And that's no slight against Palestine. I think, like you said, they are building on some things, and I think they're improving each year. This Athens team, we had high expectations for this Athens team coming into this season, and then they go out in week 1 and win a thriller over Henderson. Then kind of lay an egg last week against Kaufman, but I still think Athens is the better football team, and I think they'll go out there and prove that on Friday night. So I'm going to take the Hornets.
Okay, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm going to take Athens as well. I don't know. I think Palestine might be in trouble. I think they need a win. I just don't see it coming here.
Okay. Game 8. Kyle knows about this rivalry. The Vandals coming to town to take on the Lindale Eagles. And not that I need to ask who he's going to vote for, but let's hear from the Lindale alum here first. Kyle, do I even have to ask who you have here?
No, but I'll give you my thoughts on the game. You already know who
all
I'm taking. Give me the Birds. But no, this is the Red Zone game of the week, so it's a home game for me this week. I'll get to go literally about a mile that way to the stadium and get to hang out there. So really looking forward to this game, though. Both teams 2-0. Van coming off wins over Dallas Carter and Pine Tree. You got Lindale coming in with wins over Hallsville and Mount Pleasant, 2 5A schools, whereas Van's playing 4A schools. Lindale got off to a good start last week and then was down late in that ball game and had to score late to win that 28-27. Week 1, they dominated Hallsville. So I think Lindale's a very good football team this year, 2-0. Van's obviously a really good football team, 2-0. Doesn't matter. Throw the records out. It's Lindale Van. It's the FM16 rivalry. These two teams, respect each other, but do not like each other. It'll be very awkward for me on Friday to be wearing a red shirt in Lindell's Eagles Stadium with Van in town. So no disrespect to Coach Moffitt and the boys, but I'm going to be on the Lindell sideline in my red shirt just so I can show a little loyalty to my Eagles there. But no, I think this is going to be a great game. Every year that just like every rivalry, there's some blowouts in some years, right? But normally when these two teams meet up, it comes down to the last drive or the last play of the game. There's been some big moments in this series over the years. So I expect another classic on Friday night at Eagle Stadium, but I can't pick against Lindell in a Lindell Van game. So give me the Lindell Eagles Friday night.
There you go. Jeremy?
I think it's going to be a really, really good game. I'm going to go home team here. This was my other coin flip, the hardest one to pick, I felt like, just because both teams have done some good things. But I'm going to go with the home team, the Lindell Eagles, on this one, and I think it's going to come down to a single score.
Okay. I'm going Lindell as well. I think, Kyle, you're on the right track. Their wins are a little more impressive. I don't know what Dallas Carter has, and we're not sure about Pine Tree, but I know Mount Pleasant. That's a good win to me. I think Mount Pleasant is going to be that third team that we've talked about a little bit earlier in the year that there's high expectations there in Mount Pleasant. I think that's a good quality win for Lindell. And I just think this Lindell team is going to be tough. It's going to be that 3-horse race in District 9, and Lindell's right in the mix with them. So I'm going to go Lindell as well. Game number 9. You talked about the being awkward and all this, Kyle. Okay, so let me give you some background on game 9 here. White House and Chapel Hill. We cover White House. We broadcast White House all year long. Josh and Chris will be on the call, but there will be a special guest third man on the booth commentator, and that will be Mr. NETSN himself, Brett Swinney. Will be live in Chapel Hill, but it will be a first. It'll be the first time I will go to a Chapel Hill game and sit on the visitor side. And no, I will not be in a maroon NETSN shirt. Those of you that are wondering, I will be in a neutral shirt. I'm not going to dare to wear my Chapel Hill colors over there, but I will be in neutral. But I'll be on the broadcast to kind of give a Chapel Hill perspective, knowing the kids and all that stuff. So it'll be a lot of fun. But that's where I will be on Friday night. So, listen, I mean, I love White House now. They're one of our schools. I support them, but sorry, that Chapel Hill's win this game, man. If they had trouble with Kilgore, and we know Kilgore's a good team, I think Chapel Hill's right there with Kilgore. And so Chapel Hill's on a roll. They have confidence. They can get down when they've shown and fight back in it. I think Coach Reardon's got them firing all cylinders. He knows how to make those adjustments. The defense, obviously, Coach McFarland made some adjustments. Gilmer scored 6 points in the second half. I just think Chapel Hill is going to be too much in this game, and they're going to get the win at home against their arch rival, the Wild House Wildcats. Give me what you got, KO.
Yeah, I love White House. I think that Coach Westerberg is I love him. I love what they're doing over there at White House. If you're White House, I don't think you can have a repeat performance about what happened last week. I don't think you can go out there and get beat 49-14. So I think we're going to see a better White House football team this week. With all that being said, it's still Chapel Hill. It's still them dogs. I'm taking the Bulldogs to beat White House this week.
And just for those at home, you remember that Jaron guy that's been on the show the last few weeks? Where did he pick?
I remember him.
He didn't hardly even put him in his top 15, did he?
He had them at 15th in the original poll, so had them a little low there. But like I said, advocating for my boy Jaron, plenty of spots for Chapel Hill to move up. So I think Jaron will be moving them up for weeks to come here. But yeah, I think Chapel Hill wins this one Friday.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that White House's week 1 performance maybe is a little bit closer to who they are than the week 2, right? I think they kind of hit just kind of a snowball effect of just, Kilgore came out with vengeance on their mind after a tough week 1 loss, right? And White House just happened to be the wrong team at the wrong time in that one. And so I think White House is going to be they're better than their week 2 performance. I'll say that. But it also is Chapel Hill, and Chapel Hill is one of my top 5 teams for a reason. And so Chapel Hill is going to get the win here. but I think White House will put up a much better showing than they did, just because I think pride's on the line as well, right? Like, you don't want to go out and lay an egg 2 weeks in a row. And so I think Chapel Hill does win the game, but I think White House is going to show their mettle as well and make it a better game.
Yeah, I was actually at that game last year as a spectator. For some reason I had the week off last year on that, so I went out and watched that game. And White House they were ahead a lot of that game. They struggled. I think I want to say Malik G had to come in because Brisbane got nicked up and in that game, and obviously hadn't got a lot of live game action at that point. So Ricky Stewart kind of put him on his back and was able to get him back in that. But that game is always it's one of those that can go weird. It's just like the classic rivalry game. It doesn't matter the records, throw it out. But I just think that Chapel Hill's just got a little too much firepower right now. A lot of guys coming back. White House is still trying to figure out who they are, I think. And so as good as I think White House is going to be, as Coach Westerberg gets those guys more and more experience, I just think Chapel Hill's going to have a little too much for them in this one. But another great one at game 10, Gilmer and Kilgore, two great schools as far as football goes. I mean, I feel like for them, though, they're not happy with their starts. 1-1, they've lost games. Kilgore and Gilmer expect to win every game they step on the field. And so the funny thing is, and that's not really funny, but the thing is with this one, somebody's going to have a losing record of these two teams coming out of this game after week 3. I think it's going to be Gilmer. I think I'm going to take Kilgore. I think they've just, they hung with Carthage, which we've all got as our number 1 team right there. And then they got an impressive win over a 5A school last week. Gilmer, they beat Pine Tree, but that wasn't by a super big margin. And then they let a 20-point lead slip against a opponent at home. They let the opponent come back on them. So I know Coach Metzel will have some adjustments and they'll be ready to go here, but I'm going to go with Kilgore here at home to get the win over Gilmer. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I've got Kilgore winning this again. I think home team is going to make a difference here. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think Kilgore. I'm going to say Kilgore by 10.
Okay, KO.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good game, but I think Kilgore is the better team here. And I think Coach Metzel and the Buckeyes are going to have a successful season. They'll make probably, 2, 3, 4 rounds in the playoffs. I think Kilgore is going back to state, though. So I'm taking the Kilgore Bulldogs in this one.
All right. Well, those are our picks. Let's look over the games that we have, and then if there's any other ones that we'll look at as well. Let's see. We got 6 games for us, and then a couple of other ones from the guys down south. So let's start. We got Sims Bowie versus Overton. I think Overton's going to come back and be ready to go this week and get that win over them.
Overton by 50.
We got, of course, we mentioned the West Rusk Gladewater game that Jeremy and I will be at. They'll have the St. Augustine and Carlyle game. I believe Keith is going to be doing that one, I believe. And then Joaquin and Tenaha. So Joaquin's looking to get another win. I expect them to get the win over Tenaha. I think, Tenaha has struggled a little bit this year. Center goes across the border to Louisiana to play North DeSoto. That's always a high-scoring, interesting football game there. You've got Larry's got Hemphill and West Sabine this week. And then we got Big Sandy will travel to Lone Oak, take on the Lone Oak Buffaloes. And, of course, we mentioned the White House and Chapel Hill game. Will be on NETSN. That's where I'll be. And then we've got Athens and Palestine. We just mentioned that earlier, the rivalry game. And that's our slate for this week. Jeremy, which one are you going to be at? I know you're going to be with me on Thursday. Where are you going Friday?
Friday, I'll be with Jaron at Big Sandy and Lone Oak. I'm interested to see how that one goes. I don't know much about Lone Oak. I haven't gotten to see them play yet, and then getting a chance to watch Big Sandy in person as well. And so I haven't been up to Lone Oak territory yet for the Buffaloes. I've driven through there, but not actually stopped to watch and get to see them play. So I'm excited to be there Friday night, and again, excited that my dad will be on camera, so it's gonna be good. Just get to spend some time with him, and so Hopefully we'll have better luck with cars this week, though. That's the plan.
Yeah.
So, I've had my fair share of bad luck with cars lately. I'm hoping we'll have a smooth week for travel.
Yeah. Another interesting game on Thursday, Shelbyville and Waskom. Shelbyville's come off to an 0-2 start, and we saw Waskom. They bounced back with a win this last week. They lost to Garrison, so that'll be one to watch. KO, what games are you looking at on that schedule that we didn't talk about in our pick'ems that stick out to you?
I'm interested in that. First off, is this the first time that NETSN will broadcast out of state in Louisiana?
We did 2 years ago, actually. The same game 2 years ago. The center guys went over. I guess they've played it the last 4 years. But this will be the second one in Louisiana. Okay. So
that's kind of cool.
It is a cool. We get to and it's always a fun game. That one's always good. It's two teams that don't like to play defense. They just run up the floor.
So it's a basketball game.
But it will be the first time Coach Brown will travel over across the border as the coach of the Center Rough Riders. So that'll be interesting to see if there's any difference in his philosophies and how that makes the game change any. So
I'm also looking forward to Longview traveling to South Oak Cliff. Longview and Stock. That's going to be an interesting matchup to keep an eye on as well. I want to shout out the Livingston Lions. They got White House former offensive coordinator Tucker Carter. He's down there at Livingston as the head coach now, and they're off to a 2-0 start, and they're hosting Nacogdoches this week. So interested to see if Livingston can kind of keep up the momentum they have, see if Nac can bounce back. That's a game that I'll be having my eye on. Liberty Allo traveling to Carthage early in the year. That looked like an exciting one. I think that's going to get ugly for Liberty Allo. Pittsburgh at Grace. I think that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Grace, barely lost to the two-time state champs last week. Pittsburgh's had a hot start to the year. That's one to kind of have your eye on. Just kind of scanning through the list. Newton at Tatum. Newton just knocked off Jefferson. Tatum would be interesting to see what they can do against a Newton team. Jefferson at DeKalb, or DeKalb at Jefferson, I should say. That's an interesting little matchup as well. Timpson at Westwood a couple of years ago. That was a big game last year. That was a big game. Interested to see how Timpson can kind of do.
I know I'm interested to see, Kyle, because the fact that St. Augustine kept it so close with them last week, where does Timpson compare? I mean, it's a good point. Because Timpson is a team that maybe St. Augustine's trying to get in that playoff spot. We're trying to see which team is it going to be that they knock off. You got Garrison. You've got a solid Shelbyville. Is it Shelbyville struggle early? Could it be them?
Joaquin.
I mean, so that'll be interesting to see kind of where they measure up against a district opponent, with like opponents, basically.
Right. No, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That's a really good one to keep an eye on as well. And Winsboro at Honeygrove, right? This is a big time matchup. Winsboro put up 72 points last week against Redwater, bless it. But, Honeygrove, we got them ranked in our poll, even though they're not East Texas. We have them ranked in our poll. And, Winsboro traveling out of East Texas to take on Honeygrove. I think that's going to be a really good matchup. But I don't think the Red Raiders lose, but I do think that's one to kind of have your eye on because that should be a fun matchup for sure. I think that's all that I got, though. I think that's all that are kind of catching my eye here as I scroll through.
Okay. Jeremy, you got any that you see?
Yeah, I think Tatum's it's just going to be an interesting test all year, right? Because again, they run that flex bone triple option, right? I mean, that kind of just you don't see it a lot, right? And so it's like it's almost a one-off at this point to prepare for. And so how does Newton prepare for that, and what effect does that have? And then can Tatum use that kind of misdirection to their advantage, right? Can they use those? Can they use the oddity of that offense, to their advantage?
I think the more Adcock runs it too, Jeremy, he's going to get it's going to get better each week. He's the couple times he just put them on his shoulder and is like, all right, guys, I'm just going to take this, and he just made a play. And so he's a great athlete, but just new at that position here in this offense. And so the more he gets reps and the more games he gets under his belt, I think they're going to become more and more dangerous.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so we're through 2 weeks, fellas. Just kind of the final thoughts of what we're thinking that week 3 is going to give us. Anything that sticks out? We'll start with you, Jeremy. What do you got?
Yeah, I think this is that week where, those good teams are really going to start to rise a little bit, right? And we're going to I think the poll in some ways is going to get easier as we move forward, in the sense of we're going to see the cream rise to the top, right? We're going to see those teams that, maybe a 1-1 team gets a win here and moves up to 2-1, right? Maybe a 1-1 team takes a lot. I think the poll is going to start shuffling itself out. So I'm excited just to see what movement is made this week by those teams that are surprising a little bit, and teams that we thought were going to be good. Can they resurrect from maybe an 0-2 start or a 1-1? So I think that's what I'm excited about, is just each week brings something new and new matchups. And again, non-district is fun because you get those 5A, 4A, or you get a 4A, 3A, or a 3A Division 1 and a 3A Division 2, right? You get those things that you don't normally get to see, and how does that affect your team, and what do they learn from it?
KO?
Yeah, I think I'm just interested to see if these teams that get off to 2-0 starts, can they keep it up? Can they keep improving? Are they for real, or is it just kind of a 2-week stretch of some good luck to begin the season? I'm interested to see if those teams can build, and then the teams that we talked about, like Legacy, the 1-1 teams, the Kilgores, stuff like that. Can they continue to build on recent success, getting wins last week, and can they keep up that momentum? But I think we're in for another great week of high school football games. I think there's looking at it on paper, it didn't look like there was that many big matchups coming into this week. But now that we've kind of talked about it and looked through it a little deeper, I think we had another great slate of games this week.
Yeah, and something I want to make sure we mention, I didn't get to mention it at the beginning of the show, and I usually do, is our overall leaderboard for the overall. Right now, Coach Tony Riley is in first place. So congratulations to Coach Riley there, as he's there we go. He is leading the pick'em contest so far. You got a huge tie for second. You got Coach Griff, Conrad Barr, Gavin, Glenn Hart, Jeremy Diamond in second there. Jonathan Bradshaw, Lewis Ray in that spot of 15. So Tony Riley 2 ahead of everyone through 2 weeks. So we'll see if anybody can catch him.
Coach Riley, can you please send your picks ahead of time so I can get them right on the show? It would be great. We need a little inside information here. No, congrats to him. That's awesome, man. I mean, I felt pretty solid with my 15 in 2 weeks. I'm
right behind at 14. I'm right behind at 14. And so the ones that were ahead last week, we kind of passed them up there, Jeremy. They took some.
I had a rough week, all right, but I'm still sitting there at 13 because of my great first week, so it'll be okay.
Well, that's going to do it for tonight's episode of bEast from the East. For Jeremy Diamond, Mr. Red Zone OT, KO Kyle Owens, I'm Mr. NETSN Brett Swinney signing off. Good luck in your picks and your teams this week. Thanks for tuning in and watching. Good night.
The Northeast Texas Sports Network is dedicated on delivering the most entertaining sports broadcasts in East Texas. And if you're interested in having your next sporting event streamed live, visit us online at netsn.live.